welcome back to Heaven is Waiting for You. You know, I have been reading After the Rapture by Dr. David Jeremiah, and I want to continue to read this. So usually I pray, and then I also tell you a little bit about my background, but I'm going to put that in the description below. And if you want to give this a like, that would really help as well. And if you're interested in subscribing, please do. You can always get Jesus content. So this is my third video of this, and I'm gonna read a continuation of chapter 2 of this book. So let's dive right in. The picture of the tribulation. I have found that many people wonder just what the tribulation is, or even what the word means. This perplexity gives us a good place to start. The word is little used in ordinary conversation today. Most of us are aware of it only because of its use in the Bible. Tribulation is translated from the Greek flipsis, a term designating the giant weight used to crush grain into flour. So the idea behind tribulation is utterly crushing, pulverizing, or grinding a substance into powder. The tribulation will be a time of terror and trouble. Many of the modern Bible translations no longer use the term, choosing alternatives more common in today's language, such as affliction, persecution, trouble, suffering, misery, distress, or oppression. Yet whatever specific term is used, the fact remains that the tribulation is the period of time the world has now entered, and it is aptly named. This is to people that are in the tribulation, which has not come about yet, because the rapture has first to occur. Let's explore what the Bible tells about this present time of tribulation. In the surprise of the tribulation, in his first letter to the church in Thessalonica, the Apostle Paul described the event that will signal the beginning of the tribulation period. 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 13 to 18. As we saw in the last chapter, we call this initiating event the rapture, the moment when Christ appeared, raised the godly dead, and drew living Christians from the earth to be with him. The next natural question for Paul's readers would have been, when will this happen? Paul anticipated the question and began chapter 5 with these words, "But concerning the times and the seasons, brethren, you have no need that I should write to you, for you yourselves know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes as a thief in the night." Verses 1 to 2. The day of the Lord is another term for the time of tribulation. Since the rapture precedes the day of the Lord, Paul was saying that no one could know when the rapture was going to occur, any more than you know when a thief is planning to ransack your house. No thief sends a letter announcing that he will arrive tomorrow at 2 a.m. We were not given the ETA of the rapture. It came upon us unexpectedly, and the tribulation is following immediately in its wake. The severity of the tribulation. Nowhere in all scripture will you find one word or description that says anything good about the tribulation period, unless it is the promise that it will end after 7 years. Moses called it the day of their calamity. Deuteronomy 32, verse 35. Zephaniah said it was the day of the Lord's anger. Zephaniah 2:2. Paul referred to it as the wrath to come. 1 Thessalonians 1, verse 10. John called it the hour of trial, Revelation 3, verse 10, and the hour of his judgment, 14, verse 7. Daniel described it as a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, Daniel 12, verse 1. According to the prophet Zephaniah, that day is a day of wrath, a day of trouble and distress, a day of devastation and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness, a day of trumpet and alarm against the fortified cities and against the high towers. Zephaniah 1, verses 15 to 16. Jesus told us that the tribulation will be a time of terror and horror without precedent. For then there will be the great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world until this time, no, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. Matthew 24, verses 21 to 22. The central chapters of Revelation give us a vivid description of the horrors of the tribulation period. Great wars ravage the world as nations rise up, lusting for conquest. All peace will end, and rampant slaughter will bloody the earth. Hail and fire will burn up the earth's grass and destroy a third of all trees. Intense famine will dry up food supplies. Rivers and seas will become too polluted to sustain life. Many rivers will dry up entirely. The sun will scorch the earth and its inhabitants like fire. A quarter of the world's population will die from war, starvation, and beastly predators. Giant earthquakes, accompanied by thunder and lightning, will destroy cities. Mountains will crash into the seas, killing a third of the fish. Tidal waves from the cataclysm will sink a third of all the world's ships. A massive meteor shower will strike the earth. Ashes and smoke rising from its devastation will hide the sun and moon. Swarms of demonic insects will darken the sun and inflict painful stings. Did I say insects? Sorry. Rampant epidemic plagues will kill 1/4 of all mankind. Everyone from national leaders to servants and slaves will flee the cities to hide in caves and under rocks. Revelation 6:2-17, 8:8-13, 9:1-20, and 16 verses 1-21. To make matters even worse, a maniacal despot known as the Antichrist will rise to power. He will be multiple times more demonic than Nero, Stalin, and Hitler combined. He will demand total allegiance to his satanically inspired program, and those who resist will be barred from buying or selling food or any other product. His lust for power will not cease until the entire civilized world chokes in his tyrannical grasp. Revelation 13 verses 1-18. I know this is not a pretty picture. It is not an overstatement to say that the tribulation will be hell on earth. There will be no escape and no relief. The purpose of the tribulation. By now, I'm sure you're wondering, why is a time like the tribulation necessary? Why is a loving God pouring out such undiluted wrath and judgment on the earth? Why have I been caught up in this terrible time? The answer to these important questions is simple yet sobering. The tribulation has been unleashed on the earth because of humanity's increasing rebellion and rampant sin. God's hand is heavily involved, just as it was when he brought the plagues on the rebellious nation of Egypt in the book of Exodus. The tribulation is a planned, prophesied program and period designed to accomplish two important goals. The tribulation purifies Israel. Have you ever wondered why the tiny nation of Israel is at the center of so much global diplomacy and controversy? Why is this thin sliver of land in the Middle East so sought after and fought over? The answer is simple. The Jewish nation exists as a result of God's eternal promise, his covenant to Abraham that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars in heaven, that they would inherit the land of Israel, and that they would endure throughout all eternity. Genesis 12 verses 1-3 and 15 verse 5. Throughout the millennia, the Jewish nation has been the recipient of God's richest blessings and the source of the Bible, God's written word. And the Messiah, Jesus Christ, God's living word. Nevertheless, the Jewish people have tested God's patience throughout the many centuries of their existence, turning away from him time and time again. But despite Israel's persistent rebellion, God has and will keep his promise, not only because he is God and does not break his promises, but also because of his deep love for Israel. One of the final phases of his promise to Israel was fulfilled in 1948, when the nation was reestablished on its originally promised land. Yet after all God's care to preserve the scattered Jews throughout the centuries, enabling them to remain intact so they could inherit their land, they remain spiritually rebellious even today, spurning God's Son, Jesus Christ. The first purpose of the tribulation is to purge out from the Jewish people those who refuse to turn to Jesus Christ and bring about the final conversion of the new Jewish nation. The tribulation will be the fire that purifies Israel by burning out all of the dross and impurities. Many wonder how the Jewish people have remained a distinct people after being out of their ancient homeland for almost 2,000 years. Israel's reestablishment as a modern nation is a miracle in preparation for God's plan to restore them spiritually in the last days. As the prophet Ezekiel recorded, "I will make you pass under the rod. I will purge the rebels from among you and those who transgress against me." Ezekiel 20 verses 37-38. Moses also wrote of Israel's purging in the last days and urged the nation to respond by turning back to God. When you are in distress and all these things come upon you, and in the latter days, when you turn to the Lord your God and obey his voice, for the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not forsake you nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant of your fathers which he swore to them. Deuteronomy 4, verses 30 to 31. The Apostle Paul left no ambiguity as to whether this purging prophesied by Moses and Ezekiel would be effective, and so all Israel will be saved, as it is written. The deliverer will come out of Zion, and he will turn away ungodliness from Jacob, for this is my covenant with them, when I take away their sins. Romans 11, verses 26 to 27. Through the troubles of the time of tribulation, God will accomplish his purpose and bring a remnant of the Jewish people to trust in Jesus as their Messiah. And now I'm going to stop here, and I will continue to do shorter videos now. And remember, heaven is truly waiting for you. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video.